guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're all doing well, especially in this super stressful time. I know that I'm sad because I'm supposed to be on my senior trip with my best friends at the beach and at Disney right now, so kind of depressed about that. But I have been spending a lot of time watching movies, which is why I'm making this video today. You guys know that I'm a movie lover and I often talk about movies and shows on my channel all the time because I think that they're so interesting and there are so many good films out there. And for this week's video in particular, I want to talk about some really good coming of age films that can kind of just make your heart happy and sad and feel good and frustrated, all of the things that come with growing up, and I want to share some of those with you. Now there are a few that I don't have on this list simply because I've only seen like bits and pieces of them, so I haven't seen the whole film and therefore I don't want to recommend it even though I know they're good. I just feel like a hypocrite if I haven't seen the whole movie. And the ones that I'm particularly thinking of right now are Call Me By Your Name and Stand By Me. I've only seen like bits and pieces of those two movies and I know that they're fantastic films, but yeah. Also, these films aren't in like a particular ranking or anything, I'm just listing them off, but if they are in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, I will mention that because coming of age films are my favorite genre of cinema, so if they are in my top 10 list, I will let you guys know. First one is kind of iffy and I don't think I would necessarily, like if I was explaining this movie to someone, I wouldn't necessarily call it a coming of age film because it's a horror movie, but it has a lot of coming of age characteristics in it that I think make it sort of a coming of age film, like a coming of age horror film, and that is It Chapter 1. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. With the storyline with the kids, it's very coming of age. You know, there's facing your fears, there's love, there's finding yourself, there's dealing with bullies, all of that sort of thing that go along with the killer clown. Next film on my list is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, and it has been since I've seen it. It also goes on DVD in 2 days, and I saw it 3 times in theaters. So it's a very, very good movie, and it is the Greta Gerwig adaptation of Little Women that came out this past year. It's one of the most classic coming of age books and movies of all time. It's so good. The story is just, I love it. If you have not gotten a chance to see this movie, please watch it. I promise you won't regret it. The next movie is also in my top 10 favorite movies, and I have not watched it in nearly a year because it makes me cry anyway, and watching it this year would just be 50 times worse. And it's High School Musical 3, especially right now. I don't think I can get through it. But High School Musical 3, of course, is the third and final film in the High School Musical movie franchise, and it's a high school movie, so of course it's about coming of age and growing up and graduating and moving on. The fourth film on my list is Can't Buy Me Love. This is a film from the 80s and it is also in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It stars Patrick Dempsey and Amanda Peterson, I think her name is, maybe? I gotta look that up. Her name is Amanda Peterson and it came out in 1987, so it's a very late 80s movie. And yes, it does have the Beatles song Can't Buy Me Love in it because why not? Of course, this movie takes place in high school, as do most coming of age films, but Patrick Dempsey plays a kind of nerdy kid named Ronald Miller. Ronald? Yes, Ronald. And Amanda Peterson plays the popular cheerleader Cindy Mancini, very stereotypical. And Ronald is saving up money for a telescope, and then he sees Cindy Mancini is trying to return a dress that she spilled wine on that was her mother's, and he offers to pay for it if she goes out with him. So it's a very good movie. The next movie is 10 Things I Hate About You, another classic film that I love. I don't know if this is in my top 10. I would say that it's probably in my top 20 favorite films of all time. But it stars Heath Ledger, who I love very much, Julia Stiles, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it takes place in the 90s. It was also made in the 90s. I think it's like 99 or 97 or something like that. But this takes place in high school, and basically, now that I think about it, it's kind of like Can't Buy Me Love a little bit. But basically what happens is one of the characters, Joey, who I don't know who plays him, I cannot remember, but Joey wants to go out with Julia Stiles' character's sister but her sister is not allowed to date unless Julia Stiles, who plays Kat Stratford, dates. I know, this is very confusing. So, and me trying to explain this movie, I just need to look up the plot because it's like, there's too many people. It's a really good movie though. It's also based off of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew play. So the main characters' names are Patrick, Verona, and Kat Stratford. So like Stratford upon Avon and Verona from Romeo and Juliet. Kat Stratford, played by Julia Stiles, is beautiful, smart, and quite abrasive to most of her fellow teens, meaning that she doesn't attract many boys. Unfortunately for her younger sister Bianca, played by Larissa Oleynik, I don't know if that's how you say her last name, house rules say that she can't date until Kat has a boyfriend, so strings are pulled. I just can't. The way I was explaining this. To set the door damsel up for romance. Soon, Kat crosses paths with handsome new arrival Patrick Verona, played by Heath Ledger. Will Kat let her guard down enough to fall for her effortlessly charming Patrick? This came out in '99. Thank you, Google, for giving me the plot. The next film, also another classic from the 80s, Back to the Future. If you haven't seen these films, I feel sorry for you because they're so good. There's 3 of them. There's Back to the Future, and then Back to the Future Part 2, Back to the Future Part 3. Fantastic, fantastic work. They star Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. I love Part 1 of Back to the Future and Part 2. Part 3 is okay. Not the best. But Part 1 and Part 2 do take place when Michael J. Fox's character Marty McFly is in high school, and you also get some flashbacks to the 1950s high school. So very good. This is in like my top 20 favorite movies of all time. Next movie is Grease. This is one of the very few movie musicals on my list that I would consider like a pretty good coming of age film, because the rest of them I kind of just consider movie musicals. But Grease, so good. Also another classic, and it's basically like West Side Story with a twist. The next movie is also a classic 1980s John Hughes film, also the king of coming of age films. He makes, his movies are so good. He's like one of my favorite directors of all time. But the film is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I love this movie. It is so good. If you haven't seen it, I feel sorry for you as well. But this is on Netflix currently as of right now. But this film is about a boy named Ferris Bueller, and he tricks his parents into thinking that he's sick, and then he does all these crazy things with his friend Cameron and his girlfriend Sloane. It takes place in Chicago. It's a wild ride. This next film, I was kind of iffy about putting it on here because I feel like it's more of like a romance movie, but it's To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I think the reason that I put this movie on here is because it came out right when I started my junior year. So last year this movie came out, and Laura Jean was starting her junior year, so it was like very parallel with my life at the time, so that's kind of why I consider it coming of age. The next movie on my list is one that I'm convinced is the cutest movie of all time, or one of the cutest movies of all time, and it's The Sandlot, because how could you not love this movie? It's one of those like very few movies that has strictly like all male characters in it for the most part. But The Sandlot takes place in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, somewhere around that range. I don't know why I don't know that, and it's just so cute. I just love it. It is one of the best coming of age films out there. So the next film is from the 1990s. I would also kind of consider this more of like a chick flick or a rom-com, but it is Clueless, starring Paul Rudd, Alicia Silverstone, and Brittany Murphy. I'm sure many of you have seen this movie before because it is a classic. It is a 90s jam. This next movie I just watched the other day on Netflix because they just added it, and it is Perks of Being a Wallflower. So I have wanted to see this movie for the longest time, but I always wanted to read the book first and just never got around to it. And then once they put it on Netflix, I was like, I can't handle it. So I just watched it one night, and it is one of those movies, and I believe that most books are better than the movies, like, let's be honest, but this is just one of those movies where like I feel like I need to read the book to fully grasp everything that's happening in the movie. Like, I understood it, but I feel like there was so much more that I needed to kind of like fully grasp the theme of it. Next film on my list is The Breakfast Club, also another John Hughes classic. In short, this movie is about these kids who all have Saturday morning detention and they all become friends. They're all from kind of different cliques of a high school and they learn about each other, and yeah, just really good classic movie. Also makes me cry. What's new? Now we have another Greta Gerwig film, who is my favorite director, but it is Lady Bird, starring Saoirse Ronan, Timothée Chalamet, and Lucas. I cannot remember his last name. I know his first name is Lucas, I'm pretty sure. But this movie is about a girl named Lady Bird. Her real name is Catherine, I think, but she wants to go by Lady Bird, and she goes to a Catholic all-girls high school, and she is kind of struggling with some family issues and she wants to go to college on the East Coast. So this movie is kind of just about her finding herself. Very classic coming of age. The next film stars my favorite actress of all time, Blake Lively, and this is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It also has Alexis Bledel in it, who I also love from Gilmore Girls. But this film is based off of a book. The book is very good. You should read it. But it's about 4 best friends and they are all going to be split up for the summer. So they find a pair of jeans that miraculously fits all 4 of them and they send them around throughout the summer. One of the things that I really love about this film is Alexis Bledel's character goes to Greece, so we get a lot of Greece content. Next is The Outsiders. Now, if you're going to watch this movie, you need to read the book first, because the book is one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. And it was also a book I was forced to read for school, so that's saying a lot. But this is another one of the films that has strictly male characters, but it is about I guess you could call them a gang. It takes place in the 1960s, and I'm pretty sure it was made in the 80s, but it stars Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Ralph Macchio, Matt Dillon, who else is in it? Tom Cruise. There's so many big names in this movie. The next one is another Patrick Swayze classic, and it is Dirty Dancing. Also recommend the Dirty Dancing episode on the Netflix series Movies That Made Us. So watch Dirty Dancing and then watch that episode because you'll fall in love with the movie even more. Another movie that I want to put on this list is called Man in the Moon. This is definitely a lesser known film, but I have been watching it literally my whole life and just recently watched it again a couple days ago while we're on isolation, of course. And it stars Reese Witherspoon. I think it's her first movie ever, and I'm pretty sure it was filmed in like the 90s. Very good film, very well made, and Reese Witherspoon is so adorable. So the next movie is a tear freaking jerker, and it is Dead Poets Society. This movie is absolutely fantastic. The acting is phenomenal, and it has Robin Williams in it, so it doesn't get much better than that. Highly recommend this movie. It is just so good. So we're starting to get to the end of my list, but I kind of wanted to give you guys like a broad range, which is why I have so many on here. But the next movie I want to share with you guys is 17 Again, which is one of my favorite Zac Efron movies, other than like High School Musical 3 and The Greatest Showman. I love 17 Again. It is so good. But it's coming of age basically because he plays a 17-year-old. Next movie is a 2000s golden film, and it is Napoleon Dynamite. This movie, it's so freaking funny. Like, it's so funny. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but Napoleon Dynamite, watch it. The next movie is, well, movie series, I guess, is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. These movies and the books, I have read all of the books when I was in middle school, and I still have all of them. These movies are so good because you get to see the character grow up right before your eyes. This next movie makes me cry as well several times, and it is Hannah Montana the movie. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this one as well, but Miley Cyrus kind of goes through it in this movie, and she learns a lot about herself. I have 2 films left, and one of the films that I have left is Mean Girls. I just cannot believe if you haven't seen this movie. Like, this is a classic, one that is going to hold the test of time as the years go on. But it stars Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams. The last movie one that I love very deeply is Princess Diaries. Princess Diaries is Anne Hathaway's probably like most famous and best film in my opinion, but Princess Diaries stars Anne Hathaway, of course, and Julie Andrews and Mia Thermopolis, played by Anne Hathaway. It's just your average 15-year-old who goes to school in San Francisco, California, and then she discovers that her grandma is Queen of Genovia, and that her dad was supposed to be King of Genovia, but he died, and now 15-year-old Mia Thermopolis is supposed to take over the crown. So there you have it. So these are just a few, maybe a few is not a good word, but these are just some films that you guys could watch that are good coming of age stories that you can spend your time doing while you're in isolation. As you can see, I love all of these movies very, very much, and if you watch any of them or like any of them, leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy. I will definitely be making some good videos for you guys in the coming weeks, so make sure you subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Stay safe, I love you guys, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!